Welcome to Psychology and Human Values and Fordham's Summer Session 1, which for the first time is all being done online. And I've taught this course many times, but this is the first time I'll ever be teaching it online. As I've been preparing to do that and putting all the material together for this run-through, I've really started to see the creative potential of online learning and teaching. And I really look forward to doing this. I think it might be a better course than ever this way, and I'll be really interested to hear your feedback, your suggestions on how to make it a better course than it's ever been. This is a senior values seminar, so it's a really unique capstone course that students take on the threshold of commencement, on the threshold of the rest of their lives. It's an opportunity to recall their entire undergraduate education and even their entire life experience, and to reflect on what's most important in your discipline, what's most important in your life, as a way of thinking ahead also toward the future, one's direction, what really matters ultimately in one's life. And so this is a course for psychology majors, but also a course for other majors, students who may never have taken a psychology course before. For psychology students, it's going to be an opportunity to read all the great thinkers and to try to get to the heart of all the great approaches to psychology that have come about in its entire history. And for non-majors, it's kind of like a course, the greatest hits in psychology. You'll be reading Darwin, Freud, Skinner, Rogers, Maslow, James, all the great thinkers, and getting to their theories of values, which, although psychology is not well known for its study of values, what struck me when I was thinking of putting a course like this together is that every great psychologist and every approach to psychology has a theory of values, and it's not just incidental, it's really at the heart of the entire work. And by reading those key texts that focus on values in the original, students can get an understanding of the very foundation, the very radical basis of every approach to psychology, which is fascinating because we'll be able to contemplate the differences between these approaches, the debates, the arguments over what a human being really is. But also maybe we'll be able to see some commonalities. It's fascinating to me to think about whether there's anything that all psychologists agree on when it comes to the question of what's important, what's most important in life. And I think maybe there are commonalities. So in any case, this is going to be quite an adventure. It's also an Eloquentia Perfecta seminar, which means that it's going to focus a lot on presentation, verbal expression, writing, and discussion. So I hope in that way it's a course that really engages all of us to try to express ourselves as clearly and as beautifully as we possibly can. Maybe a good way to introduce the course, and especially to let you know how we're going to do this hybrid format, is to walk through the syllabus with you. I've already described the course a little bit, but let's get into it. And the topics, as I mentioned, are evolutionary psychobiology. We'll talk about psychoanalysis. We'll get into some of the more contemporary psychoanalysis of Erik Erikson, who will study the developmental lifespan and look at the values that the infant has. How is an infant's values compared to a child's of 3 or 4 years old, or a school child, or an adolescent, or a young adult, or even a person in old age? What is most important to them? And we'll also look at culture. We'll study Erikson's work on the Native American Sioux on the reservation at Pine Ridge and what their cultural practices are like, what's important to them and their struggles. We'll also focus in on behaviorism, radical behaviorism of Skinner. We'll look at humanism. We'll look at spiritual psychology and spiritual values. structuralism and feminism, cognitive theory, postmodern perspectives and feminism and gender, and social activism. And we'll end with an ecological perspective that really aims to put it all together, specifically looking at a study of youth violence. An amazing psychologist named Garbarino wrote a book on this topic. He's come to Fordham and spoken with us, gave an amazing lecture. He did an interview study, interviewing youth on death row. And these are kids who have committed murders, and actually really bad murders. These are bad boys. And he talks with them and talks about their lives and tries to get at the heart of what is really moving them and what they're all about, to give us a sense of the problem of youth violence and what to do about it. Again, I mentioned Eloquentia Perfecta, so I won't go over that part, but you can read it again in the syllabus where it's described. In the hybrid format, I should mention that we will be meeting in live time on Zoom once every class, Monday through Thursday at 6 o'clock. And our class will go for about an hour and 45 minutes to 7:45. And then I'll have an optional half-hour question and answer period, and actually I won't mind staying around if any students have further questions and want to ask them or talk further. And that's the way it'll be each evening. In terms of the asynchronous elements of the course, part of the Eloquentia Perfecta, each class will start with student presentations, and I'll talk a little bit about them a little later, but each student will have 2 PowerPoint and verbal presentations that they'll do on Zoom. And another key element of the course is Blackboard discussion. We'll have a discussion on Blackboard on each of the readings of the class, and those will be opportunities to look at key concepts in each reading, to define them, to clarify them, to ask questions about them, to also look at the most difficult material and discuss it, try to get a better handle on it. Also to give your personal reflections, your personal experiences, to bring in knowledge from other courses that may relate to the reading, and to really build our learning community through dialogue and discussion. As far as homework goes, there will be readings for each class, which I hope you'll complete prior to the class, and also get into discussing them on Blackboard. We'll also do 2 presentations for each student, and usually 3 or even 4 in a given class. And also there will be take-home exams. There are no multiple choice, no time-pressured exams. You'll have plenty of time to do your exams, and they'll become available on Sunday night and be due before midnight. Available on Thursday evening and be due before midnight on Sunday. The course is organized in modules, 5 modules that can be accessed on Blackboard. And in each one, you'll find all the readings. You don't need to buy any books for this course, although they are in the bookstore and on Amazon, and I mention a number of them among the readings that would make a great contribution to your library. So I really do suggest that you buy some of these books. Most of them are cheap paperbacks, but they're blockbusters and amazing books that I hope you'll want to have for the rest of your life. But I do give you PDF versions of them electronically for your convenience if you want to take advantage of those. And I also have prepared PDF PowerPoints on all the readings in the class. And it's really, these are my best attempt to clarify what is happening in each of these readings and to help you, as a guide through the reading, understand it better. Then, of course, we will have the Blackboard discussions of these readings where if there is anything you don't understand, you can bring those things out and we can talk about them. If you want me to give some mini lectures, I'm always happy to do that. I wonder if that's what you want. And again, feedback it will be much appreciated throughout the course. So as you go through the syllabus, you'll see all these readings of these great people like Albert Bandura, who also has visited Fordham. You see Darwin, who has not visited Fordham, unfortunately. He was before our time. And the readings are listed here, but each reading is in its module, and that's where you can find it on Blackboard. Let me say a bit about the classroom presentations. I've assigned each student 2 presentations, so when you go into Blackboard, you'll see the various kinds. One kind of presentation is a personal biography of the writer. So you go into their life, their childhood, where they were born, what their parents were like, their family, their personal development, their social interpersonal relationships, their time in school, if they traveled, other big events in their life, as personal and as interesting as you can get it. Just going to the internet and collecting material, and usually students come up with amazing photographs of these people and maybe find some things about their lives. Actually, in so many of the cases, we find things about their lives that are shocking. And so we'll talk about these people who have often had some very difficult lives, but yet who rose up to be some of the great thinkers and great contributors to psychology. There are also intellectual biography presentations, which focus in on the writer's major ideas, looking back at what people thought before this person was writing, and how they changed our understanding of human beings, who their intellectual influences were, what their major ideas are, and how they've shaped and influenced psychology and all of our thinking, because many of these thinkers are household names and their ideas are part of our stock of knowledge that's simply inherited in our cultural heritage. And so the intellectual biography will focus on their ideas. The third kind of presentation will focus on the reading. And these presentations are 10 minutes, hopefully, certainly no more than 15. And so these presentations on the readings can't possibly cover everything. And so I want to make it pretty easy for you to focus in on one quote. That's number 1. A quote that really seems revealing and important in the reading. Then number 2, just very briefly tell the class what the general issue, the general problem, the question, what is the author taking on here? And then in a brief paragraph, just summarize what happens in this reading, what's its structure, what's its logic, what's the thesis. You can't possibly cover the entire thing, so just trying to get the thrust of it, the gist of it. And then tell us a part of the reading that's especially interesting to you, especially valuable, or maybe one that you really disagreed with, that really bothered you. And then finally, identify one part of the reading that you found difficult. And that's where I can hopefully pick up and try to clarify anything that might be difficult for students to understand. One thing I should mention is that it's best when these presentations don't overlap with each other, so that the personal is really personal, the intellectual is the big picture of their ideas, and the reading is really focused on this particular reading. And maybe when there is overlap between the reading and the intellectual biography, the person doing the intellectual biography will take care not to step on the turf of the student who's presenting on the reading. Our Blackboard discussions will take place each day. For each of the 5 reading modules, they'll focus on the class readings. You'll see in Blackboard that I give a number of key concepts that help key up the discussions, but I also would encourage you all to ask questions, to clarify concepts, to express your personal reactions, and to connect with the class, with other students and with me. You can critically evaluate the reading, debate the issues, and relate the readings to each other and your prior knowledge, and even make broad-ranging observations and comments about the big picture. Another part of the course is the term paper. Each student will do a term paper. Maybe I won't go into depth and detail on the term paper now, but I'm open to almost anything you might want to do, as long as it's relevant to the course. I do give 3 suggestions that you can read up on in the syllabus. The term paper should be 8 pages, And there's no maximum. I've had students write quite a lot, and other students write 8 pages. But one would be an analysis of a particular school of thought, or a comparison between 2 psychological schools of thought. Another kind of paper would be to take a contemporary problem, like one problem that has been on everybody's mind recently is the COVID-19 crisis and the pandemic. We will see that this material will relate all over the place to our experience of the pandemic, and I wouldn't mind if a lot of students wanted to address issues that are coming up right now all around us in our society, in our personal experiences, in the lives of others we love and know and see in the media. There's plenty to reflect on. But also poverty, international conflict, corruption of leaders, divorce, child abuse, steroids in sports, terrorism, advertising, globalism, racism, voter apathy, adolescent suicide. I've had papers on all these topics and many, many others. So the idea is that the student could actually take a paper they've done in another course and present an introduction utilizing the material that you had in another course, and then look at that through the lens of this course. That's the one thing that all the term papers will have. They'll use the readings of this course, and I don't want you to go do a lot of research outside of the course. The readings that we're doing that are assigned are perfectly good for the term paper. Nothing else is needed. So for whatever problem you take on, you can look at whatever is the most relevant or the most interesting of our readings to you. The final paper is an autobiographical narrative. It's a study of yourself. It's a reflection on your own values, your own value development, your own future. And we're going to be reading some case studies, one in particular of a political activist. And I'm inviting you, and many students take up this option, to look at themselves, look at their own lives, and to use the materials in the course to examine and analyze the sources and consequences and even future of their own values. To talk a little bit about the take-homes, again, I mentioned that they'll be available every Thursday night and due before midnight on Sunday. I'll give you a pair of questions on each reading, and you could choose one or the other, and then work on it at your leisure. There's a page limit of 2 pages, double-spaced, so I don't want you to get carried away with a lot of pages. See if you can get right to the heart of answering the question, and here's where eloquentia perfecta comes in, writing in a very incisive way, getting right to the point and getting to what's essential. And that's something you can work on over the weekend. No multiple choices or any kind of time-pressured things. I really want you to develop your writing craft in the take-home exams as well as the term papers and the presentations. The grading in the course will be 50% for the take-home exam, so each will be worth 10%. There are 5 of them. The term paper will be 25%, and class participation will be 25%, and that will include attendance, the live class presentations, the asynchronous Blackboard discussions, the dialogue in the Zoom class meetings, and then finally, the final term paper presentation. The last 2 classes will be presentations of students' term papers, and these are my favorite classes in a way because we reap the fruits of all the students' work and reflections and see all the amazing work that comes out of the thinking of the students in this class. It's quite incredible, I think, and I hope you like it as much as I have, and I think as other students in the past have. So that, I think, is the main way this course is being done. You'll see when you get to the schedule each module, which I've written in purple, and then for each day you'll see exactly what readings we'll be discussing, and you'll find them within that module on Blackboard. So every day is laid out. The readings are here. And when you see your assignment for presentations, you'll be able to come to this schedule, identify the thinker or the reading, the class in which your presentation will be given. And then when you go down to the bottom of the syllabus, you will be able to write that in. What's the date of your presentation? What's the topic? What's the reading number? And that will help remind you. We'll use the share screen in Zoom for students to do those presentations at the beginning of every class. So that's the course on human values, and I really look forward to meeting you on Tuesday at 6 o'clock. We'll start by going around and introducing ourselves. I hope that each of you will let us know what name you would like to be called in class. Maybe tell us where you were born or your hometown, or if you don't have a hometown, it'd be interesting to know the circumstances that led you to that place. And also your major, and perhaps your thoughts about the future, since you're seniors. And of course, there are always students who have no idea what their future will hold. I had no idea what mine would hold, and so I well understand where a student is who doesn't know what the future will bring. But that's great to talk about too. So we'll get to know each other in this course. We'll get to know the very best of psychology. And I also want to say that I don't want to ignore what's going on at this time, this really, really crucial time in American history, and this crucial time in so many people's lives. It's unbelievably unusual. It's a crisis. And what we psychologists know is that crises can be opportunities for growth. When we see things really breaking down, we have the opportunity to build them up better than they've ever been before. And I hear people talking about that. And so I very much welcome any talk about that in this class. Maybe you could say a little bit when you introduce yourself about what this COVID crisis has been like for you, where you are, how your family is, if you don't mind getting into some personal details, and maybe what some of the most salient experiences have been during this unusual time for you. So anyway, I hope to meet you soon and look forward to this class. See you on Tuesday.